Hey guys, how's it going? I've got some more tips and tricks today, and this one's going to be all about spike traps. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about them so that you'll never be surprised by them and you can instead use them to your advantage because they can be really useful. So let's start with some basics. The traps deal 24 damage and they only hit once for every press of the button. That means you can stay on the trap after it goes up initially, it won't keep hitting you. Do be careful though, you can see in this clip that the button gets pressed twice really quickly and I got hit twice. In general, you just want to stay off the traps. A little trick that's good to know is that if an object is dropped on the button, it'll press the button and keep it pressed, essentially eliminating that trap. One more little tip, you can see in this clip that it's okay to walk over the spikes once they're already up, they won't hurt you. And one last thing to keep in mind is that the traps will aggro opponents, but damage dealt with a trap doesn't count towards your damage in the match, and kills also won't count. Alright, now I want to talk about each map and what you should know about their spikes. Let's start with the arena because this one's by far the most complex and these spikes are the most useful ones. So you got 7 buttons here and it's important to know which ones do what. The ones on each end when you first enter the arena fire the spikes in a T shape in front of the opposite button, so you can use that button to deal some damage right away since the enemies will almost always come straight out. Now each of the 4 buttons around the center as well as the one in the center fire the 4 spikes around them, meaning the same spikes can be fired by multiple buttons, so be careful of that. So the reason I say these spikes are the most useful is because there are just so many of them and so many buttons, it pretty much means you can just run through and press all the buttons and the enemies will pretty much be constantly taking damage. You can see in the clips just how well this works. It's also really easy to just push guys onto the spikes since they're so close to the buttons. Just be careful not to get pushed yourself. The next map I want to talk about is the city center because it's really similar to the arena. These spikes are in the middle of the action and it's easy to get an enemy to follow you onto them or just push them. These buttons just fire the spikes in front of them, so it's a lot simpler, but you can still use them to deal reliable damage. Next is the stadium. The spikes here are many, but they're pretty simple. The button in the middle fires the spikes on either side of the raised section, and then the other buttons fire the ones between the ramps on their respective sides. These spikes can be pretty useful either by pushing someone off of the raised section, then pressing the button while they try to come back up, or if they go fight someone else. They're especially useful in a 1v many if you use them a certain way though. So what you want to do is run up one of the side ramps, press the button, and then keep going down the other ramp. Ideally, this will have a couple of guys follow you up the ramp who will then press the button some more while the other guys try to cut across the spikes to get to you. If you keep doing this over and over, it'll do tons of damage to the pack and help you thin them out. Now a set of spikes that aren't quite as useful are the ones on this arena. These ones are simple enough too, 2 traps to a button on each side of the arena, but the buttons and traps are far away enough from each other that it can be hard to get hits with them. The best way to use these ones, I think, is to just look for enemies already standing on the trap fighting each other and then running to the button and hitting them. The last map to talk about is the small pit, and these are the only spikes that I don't like seeing. First of all, there's only one button and it seems to fire the spikes pretty randomly. It fires all of them with each press, but they're staggered and the order is random. It's also hard to hit anyone with these on purpose since the button is pretty far from the spikes. The real problem with this variant though is that it just cuts down the space so much in an arena that was already pretty small. If you get these spikes during a 1v many, it can be really tough to get any space. I'd say with this map you should try to avoid the button as much as you can or even drop something on it because you never know when you could be pushed into the spikes and they won't be much use to you offensively. And that's that for spike traps, so I hope this video helps you get some use out of them. If you're looking for more tips and tricks, you could try the video on the screen, and as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.